Narcissistic billionaire CEO forced and paid her to take an abortion pill. 3 years later, he sees her with twins who look like him. Cashin Drake believed everything in life had a price. He'd built his empire on that principle, and it had never failed him, until the night Mira stood in his penthouse, trembling, clutching the envelope he'd pushed across the table. He told her, cold and certain, that it was more than enough to start over. "Take the pill, Mira. I can't have this complication." "Not now." His voice was ice, his eyes hard as steel. She stared at him, her voice barely more than a whisper. "You're asking me to kill our child." He didn't flinch. "I'm asking you to be reasonable. You know what's at stake for me. For both of us." Her hands shook. "You don't love me. You never did." He looked away, jaw clenched. "Love is a luxury I can't afford." She left that night, the envelope unopened on the table. Cashin told himself it was for the best. He never saw her again. 3 years passed. His empire grew, his reputation as a cold, calculating genius only solidified. He dated models, attended galas, made headlines. But in the quiet moments, when the city was asleep and the penthouse was silent, he remembered Myra's eyes, full of pain, full of something he'd never let himself feel. He told himself she'd done as he asked, that the problem was gone. But sometimes, in his dreams, he saw a little girl with Myra's smile and his eyes, reaching for him. He always woke up alone. It was a rare afternoon off when Cashin found himself in the city park, taking a call as he strode past the playground. He barely noticed the children, the laughter, the chaos, until a familiar voice cut through the noise. Myra's laughter, bright and breathless, floated on the breeze. "Come on, you two. If you catch me, I'll buy you ice cream." He froze. There she was, her hair longer now, her body softer, but her spirit unchanged. She chased 2 toddlers, a boy and a girl, their laughter ringing out like bells. The twins had his eyes, his mouth, his stubborn chin. Mira looked up, her smile vanishing as she locked eyes with him. She gathered the children, her voice low and urgent. "Stay close to me, darlings." Cashin's heart hammered in his chest. He took a step forward, then another, unable to stop himself. "Mira," she didn't let him get close. "Don't come any closer, Cashin. You lost the right to know us the day you tried to erase us." He stared at the twins, his voice breaking. "Are they mine?" Her eyes blazed. "Look at them. You tell me." The boy, curious, peered up at him. "Mama, who's that man?" Myra's voice was gentle but firm. "No one, sweetheart. Just someone passing by." Cashin's world tilted. He reached for her, desperate. "Mira, please. I need to talk to you." She shook her head, her jaw set. "You made your choice. Now live with it." She turned, leading the twins away, leaving him standing alone in the park, haunted by the ghosts of what he'd tried to destroy. That night, Cashin couldn't sleep. He paced his penthouse, replaying the encounter over and over. The twins' faces, his faces, burned into his mind. He called his assistant, his voice sharp, demanding to know everything about Mira. Where she lived, what she did, who she was with. He told himself it was about responsibility, about doing the right thing. But deep down, he knew it was about something else, something raw and aching that he'd buried for too long. Mira lived in a small apartment above a flower shop, her life a patchwork of art, motherhood, and survival. She painted at night, after the twins were asleep, her canvases full of color and longing. Her best friend, Lonnie, watched the twins while Mira worked. Lonnie was the only one who knew the truth about their father. When Mira came home that night, Lonnie saw the look on her face and asked if she was okay. Mira sank onto the couch, her hands shaking. "I saw him today. Cashin." He saw the twins. Lonnie's eyes widened. "What did he say?" "Nothing. He just stared, like he couldn't believe it." Lonnie squeezed her hand. "He doesn't deserve them. Or you." Mira nodded, but her heart was heavy. She'd spent 3 years building a life without Cashin. She wasn't sure she could survive him coming back. The next day, Cashin waited outside the flower shop, his car idling at the curb. When Mira emerged, twins in tow, he stepped forward, his voice low and urgent. "Mira, please, just 5 minutes." She glared at him, her body tense. "You had your chance, Cashin. You made your choice." He ran a hand through his hair, frustration etched on his face. "I was wrong. I know that now. Let me make it right." She laughed, bitter. You think you can fix this with money? With apologies? He shook his head, his voice raw. No. I want to know them. I want to know you. Please. The twins tugged at her hands, sensing the tension. Myra's voice trembled. You can't just walk back into our lives. It doesn't work like that. He knelt, his eyes level with the twins. Hi. I'm Cashin. The boy eyed him warily. The girl hid behind Myra's leg. Myra's heart twisted. She looked at Cashin, her voice softening just a little. Their names are Finn and Alara. He smiled, tears shining in his eyes. Finn. Alara. Beautiful. Myra's resolve wavered. For a moment, she saw the man she'd once loved, the man she'd hoped he could be. Don't hurt them. If you want to be in their lives, you have to prove you've changed. He nodded, hope flickering in his eyes. I will. I promise. Cashin tried to keep his distance, but the urge to see his children, became a hunger he couldn't ignore. He started showing up at the park, at the flower shop, always at a distance, always watching. He sent gifts, books, art supplies, toys, but Mira returned them all, sometimes with a note in her sharp, looping handwriting. They don't need your money. They need a father. He tried to do it her way. He learned to show up, to listen, to wait. He watched Finn build towers in the sandbox, watched Alara chase butterflies, watched Mira laugh with Lonnie in the shade. He saw the life he could have had, the life he'd thrown away. And slowly, painfully, he began to change. One afternoon, Finn fell and scraped his knee. Cashin rushed over, panic in his eyes, but Mira was already there, soothing her son, kissing his tears away. Cashin knelt beside them, unsure, and Mira looked at him, her eyes softening. She told Finn that sometimes, even grown-ups make mistakes. Sometimes, they have to say sorry and try again. Finn looked at Cashin, then at his mother, and nodded. Cashin's heart broke and healed all at once. He started spending more time with them. He learned to make pancakes, to braid Alara's hair, to read bedtime stories. He learned to laugh, to cry, to love. Mira watched him, wary but hopeful, her heart opening inch by inch. One evening, after the twins were asleep, Cashin found Mira on the balcony, her hair loose around her shoulders, her eyes shining in the city lights. He apologized, truly, for everything. For the pill, for the money, for the fear. He told her he'd been a coward, that he'd been afraid of loving her, afraid of being loved. She listened, silent, tears slipping down her cheeks. She told him she'd hated him, that she'd wished he'd never come back. But she'd never stopped loving the man he could have been. He reached for her, his hands trembling, and she let him hold her. They stood together, the city humming below, the past and future colliding in the space between their hearts. Cashin promised to fight for her, for Finn and Alara, for the family he'd almost lost. Mira told him it wouldn't be easy. He said nothing worth having ever was. The next morning, Finn woke up early and padded into the kitchen, rubbing his eyes. Cashin was already there, making pancakes. Finn watched him for a moment, then asked, "Are you going to stay this time?" Cashin knelt down, looking his son in the eye. "If your mom lets me, I want to." Finn nodded, satisfied, and climbed onto a stool to help. Alara was slower to trust. She clung to Mira, watching Cashin with wide, uncertain eyes. But one afternoon, as a summer storm rattled the windows, she crawled into his lap with her favorite book. She didn't say a word, just handed him the story and waited. Cashin read to her, his voice soft and steady, and when he finished, she curled against his chest and fell asleep. Mira watched from the doorway, her heart aching with hope and fear. Lonnie noticed the change in Mira. She teased her gently, saying, "You're letting him in again." Mira shrugged, trying to hide her smile. "He's trying. For the first time, he's really trying." Lonnie squeezed her hand. "You deserve happiness, Mira. Don't let fear steal it from you." Cashin's world shifted. Board meetings and business deals faded into the background. He found himself thinking about school runs, birthday parties, and the way Myra's laughter filled a room. He wanted to be the man she and the twins deserved. One night, after the twins were asleep, Mira and Cashin sat on the couch, a quiet tension between them. He reached for her hand, his thumb tracing gentle circles on her skin. "I know I can't erase what I did, but I want to build something better. With you. With them." Myra's eyes filled with tears. "I want that too. But I need to know you're here for us. not just for yourself. He nodded, understanding. I'm here. For all of you. For as long as you'll have me. Their first kiss in 3 years was hesitant, full of longing and apology. Myra's lips trembled against his, her hands fisting in his shirt. Cashin held her close, his heart pounding, and whispered that he loved her. She pulled him closer, her voice breaking as she said she'd never stopped. The weeks that followed were a slow dance of trust and forgiveness. Cashin moved into the spare room, respecting Myra's boundaries. He helped with the twins, learned their routines, and became a fixture in their lives. The twins began to call him Papa, first shyly, then with growing confidence. One evening, as the sun set over the city, Cashin and Mira sat on the balcony, watching the lights flicker on below. Mira leaned her head on his shoulder, her voice soft. Do you ever wish things had been different? Cashin kissed her hair. I wish I'd been braver. I wish I'd chosen you from the start. She smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. We have now. That's enough. He turned to her, his eyes full of promise. I want to marry you, Mira. I want to be your husband, their father, for the rest of my life. She laughed, a sound full of hope and wonder. Ask me again in the morning, when the world feels real. He grinned, pulling her close. I'll ask you every day until you say yes. That night, as they lay together, their bodies entwined, Cashin whispered his love against her skin. Mira traced the lines of his face, memorizing the man he'd become. They made love slowly, reverently, rediscovering each other in the quiet dark. When dawn broke, Mira said yes. Cashin woke to the soft light of morning and the sound of Mira humming in the kitchen. The scent of coffee and cinnamon drifted through the apartment. He found her at the stove, hair messy, wearing one of his old shirts. She glanced over her shoulder, a shy smile curving her lips. You're up early. He wrapped his arms around her from behind, pressing a kiss to her neck. Didn't want to waste a single minute. She laughed, leaning into him, and for a moment, the world felt simple. The twins barreled into the kitchen, Finn clutching a toy car, Alara dragging her favorite blanket. Papa, can we go to the park today? Finn's eyes were hopeful, and Cashin ruffled his hair. Of course. After breakfast, we'll all go together. Mira watched them, her heart full. She'd never imagined this. Cashin making pancakes, the twins giggling, sunlight streaming through the window. She caught his gaze, and he mouthed, "Thank you." She squeezed his hand under the table, her answer silent but certain. After breakfast, they walked to the park, the twins racing ahead. Cashin and Mira strolled behind, their fingers entwined. He glanced at her, his voice low. I want to do this every day. I want to be here for all of it. She squeezed his hand. Then stay. Don't run when things get hard. He stopped, turning to face her. I'm not going anywhere. Not ever again. The twins called for them, and they hurried to join in the laughter and games. Cashin pushed Alara on the swing, her laughter ringing out, while Mira and Finn built castles in the sandbox. For the first time in years, Cashin felt whole. Later, as they walked home, Finn tugged on Cashin's sleeve. Papa, will you come to my school play? Cashin knelt, looking his son in the eye. I wouldn't miss it for the world. Finn grinned, throwing his arms around Cashin's neck. Alara joined in, and soon Cashin was carrying both twins, their giggles echoing down the street. That night, after the twins were asleep, Mira curled up beside Cashin on the couch. She traced lazy circles on his chest, her voice soft. You're good with them. They adore you. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. I adore them. And you? She smiled, her eyes shining. I never thought we'd have this. I was so angry, so hurt. But you're different now. He nodded, his voice thick. I had to lose everything to realize what mattered. I'm sorry it took me so long. She kissed him, slow and deep, her forgiveness a balm. We're here now. That's enough. They made love on the couch, slow and unhurried, rediscovering each other in the hush of the night. Cashin worshipped her, his hands gentle, his lips reverent. Mira surrendered, her body arching beneath his touch, her heart finally at peace. In the weeks that followed, Cashin became a fixture in their lives. He learned the twins' favorite songs, their bedtime rituals, the way Alara liked her hair braided, and Finn's obsession with dinosaurs. He helped with homework, cheered at soccer games, and soothed nightmares with whispered stories. Mira watched him, her heart swelling with pride and gratitude. Lonnie noticed the change, teasing Mira one afternoon as they sipped tea in the kitchen. "You're glowing. Love looks good on you." Mira laughed, glancing at Cashin playing with the twins in the living room. "He's trying so hard. I almost can't believe it." Lonnie squeezed her hand. "You deserve this. Don't let fear keep you from being happy." Mira nodded, her eyes shining. "I'm not afraid anymore. Not with him by my side." One evening, Cashin surprised Mira with a canvas and a set of new paints. "I want you to have time for your art again. I'll handle bedtime tonight." She blinked back tears, hugging him tightly. "Thank you for seeing me." He smiled, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "I see you, Mira. I always have. I just didn't know how to love you before." She painted late into the night, the apartment quiet except for the soft breathing of the twins and Cashin's steady presence nearby. When she finished, she found him waiting for her, his eyes full of longing. "Come to bed," he whispered, and she went willingly, letting him show her with every touch how much he'd changed. As autumn turned to winter, Cashin asked Mira to marry him again. This time, there was no hesitation. She said yes, her voice trembling with joy. They planned a small ceremony, just family and close friends, the twins as ring bearers. On the morning of their wedding, Mira stood in front of the mirror, her heart pounding. Lonnie helped her with her dress, her eyes misty. "You look beautiful. He's a lucky man." Mira smiled, nerves and excitement swirling inside her. "I'm the lucky one. I get a second chance." Cashin waited for her at the end of the aisle, his eyes never leaving hers. When she reached him, he took her hands, his voice steady. "I promise to love you, to fight for you, to never let fear keep me from your side again." Myra's voice shook as she replied, "I promise to trust you, to forgive you, to build a life with you, one full of laughter, passion, and second chances." They kissed, the world erupting in applause, the twins giggling at their feet. That night, after the celebration faded and the twins were asleep, Cashin carried Mira to their bed. He undressed her slowly, reverently, his hands memorizing every curve, every scar, every secret place. She pulled him close, her body arching to meet his, her heart open and unafraid. Their lovemaking was a promise, a vow written in sweat and tears and whispered words. Cashin worshipped her, his love fierce and unyielding. Mira surrendered, her body trembling with pleasure, her soul finally at peace. Afterward, they lay tangled together, the world quiet and safe around them. Cashin pressed a kiss to her hair, his voice a promise. "I choose you. Every day. For the rest of my life." Mira smiled, her eyes shining with love. "Always." The first weeks of marriage felt like a dream Mira never wanted to wake from. Cashin was different now, gentler, more present, and fiercely protective of the family he'd nearly lost. He made breakfast every morning, even if it meant burning toast or getting flour in his hair. The twins loved it, shrieking with laughter as he tried to flip pancakes and failed spectacularly. One rainy Saturday, Finn and Alara built a fort in the living room, dragging every pillow and blanket they could find. Cashin crawled inside with them, pretending to be a dragon, his deep voice rumbling as the twins squealed, and Mira watched from the kitchen, her heart full. She caught his eye, and he winked, making her blush like a girl in love for the first time. Later, as the twins napped, Mira curled up beside Cashin on the couch. He traced lazy circles on her arm, his voice soft. "I never thought I'd have this. I never thought I deserved it." She turned to face him, her eyes serious. "You do. We all make mistakes, Cashin. What matters is what we do after." He kissed her, slow and deep, his hands gentle on her waist. "I love you, Mira. I love our family. I'll spend the rest of my life proving it." She smiled, her lips brushing his. "You already are." The seasons changed, and with them, the rhythm of their lives. Cashin's work no longer consumed him. He left the office early, turned down late-night meetings, and made it clear to everyone that his family came first. Some called him soft, but he didn't care. He'd been hard for too long. One evening, as autumn leaves swirled outside, Mira found Cashin in the twins' room, reading them a story. Alara was curled against his side, Finn sprawled across his lap. Cashin's voice was low and soothing, and both children were nearly asleep. Mira leaned against the doorframe, watching the man she loved become the father she'd always hoped for her children. After the twins were tucked in, Cashin joined Mira on the balcony. The city lights sparkled below, and a cool breeze ruffled her hair. He wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close. "Do you ever regret giving me a second chance?" he asked quietly. She shook her head, her voice sure. "Never. You're my home, Cashin. You always were." He pressed a kiss to her temple, his breath warm against her skin. "I want to give you everything. I want to see you paint again, to watch you chase your dreams." She smiled, her heart swelling. "I want that too. But what I want most is this, us, together." He turned her in his arms, his eyes dark with longing. "Come inside," he whispered, and she followed, letting him show her with every touch how much she meant to him. Their nights were full of whispered promises and slow, lingering kisses. Cashin learned every inch of her body, every secret sigh, every way she liked to be loved. Mira gave herself to him completely, her trust a gift he never took for granted. As winter settled in, the twins grew bolder, their laughter echoing through the apartment. Cashin taught Finn how to build model airplanes, while Mira and Alara painted together at the kitchen table. Sometimes, all four of them would end up on the floor, covered in paint and glue, the apartment a beautiful mess. One snowy afternoon, Lonnie stopped by with hot chocolate and a mischievous grin. She watched Cashin and the twins build a snowman outside, then turned to Mira. "He's really changed, hasn't he?" Mira nodded, her eyes shining. "He's everything I ever wanted. I just didn't know how much I needed him until now." Lonnie squeezed her hand. "I'm happy for you. You deserve this." Mira smiled, her heart full. "We all do." That night, after the twins were asleep, Cashin surprised Mira with a small box. Inside was a delicate gold necklace, a tiny charm shaped like a paintbrush. "For the artist who colors my world," he said, his voice rough with emotion. She threw her arms around him, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Thank you. For loving me. For loving them." He held her close, his lips pressed to her hair. "Thank you for giving me a second chance." They made love slowly, the world outside fading away. Cashin worshipped her, his hands gentle, his love fierce. Mira surrendered, her body trembling with pleasure, her soul finally at peace. Spring arrived, and with it, new beginnings. Myra's art was accepted into a prestigious gallery show. Cashin beamed with pride, telling everyone who would listen about his wife's talent. The twins started preschool, waving goodbye with sticky hands and wide grins. One evening, as they walked home from the gallery, Mira slipped her hand into Cashin's. "I never thought I'd have all this," she whispered. He squeezed her hand, his voice full of wonder. "Neither did I, but I'm never letting it go." They stopped under a street lamp, the city humming around them. Cashin pulled Mira close, his lips finding hers in a kiss that was both a promise and a prayer. "I love you," he whispered against her mouth. She smiled, her heart overflowing. "Always." The first warm days of summer brought a new energy to their lives. Myra's art show was a success, and Cashin was there for every moment, beaming with pride as he introduced her to collectors and critics. He never let go of her hand, and when someone asked if he was her manager, he just laughed and said, "No, I'm the lucky husband." After the show, they celebrated with the twins at a little Italian restaurant, the table crowded with pasta and laughter. Finn and Alara took turns telling Cashin about their day at preschool, their words tumbling over each other in excitement. Mira watched them, her heart so full it ached. Later that night, as they walked home beneath the city lights, Cashin pulled Mira close. "I want to give you the world," he whispered, his breath warm against her ear. "But all I really want is this. Us. Our family." She smiled, her fingers tracing the line of his jaw. "You already have." But happiness, Mira knew, was never simple. The next morning, she found a letter slipped under their door. The handwriting was unfamiliar, but the message was clear: you can't trust him. People like Cashin never change. He'll break you again. Myra's hands shook as she read it. She tried to brush it off, but the words burrowed into her mind. That night, as Cashin tucked the twins into bed, she sat on the edge of their own, staring at the letter. He found her there, worry creasing his brow. "What's wrong?" She handed him the note, her voice barely above a whisper. "Do you know who would send this?" He read it, his jaw tightening. "No, but I'll find out. I promise you, Mira, I'm not that man anymore." She nodded, but doubt lingered in her eyes. "I want to believe you." I do. But sometimes I wonder if I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. He knelt in front of her, taking her hands in his. I can't change the past, but I can show you, every day, that I'm here for you. For them. For us. She searched his face, looking for any sign of the man she'd once feared. All she saw was love and a fierce determination to protect what they'd built. The next day, Cashin hired a private investigator to trace the letter. He didn't tell Mira, not wanting to worry her further, but he was determined to keep his family safe. Meanwhile, Mira threw herself into her art, painting late into the night. Cashin would find her in the studio, lost in color and light, and he'd wrap his arms around her, grounding her in the present. Sometimes, she'd let the brush fall and turn to him, her need for him as urgent as it had ever been. They made love on the paint-splattered floor, their bodies tangled, their hearts beating in time. But the letters kept coming, each one more pointed, more personal. He'll never be enough. He'll leave you again. You're a fool to trust him. Mira tried to hide them, but Cashin found the stack in her desk drawer. He confronted her, his voice tight with worry. Why didn't you tell me? She looked away, shame coloring her cheeks. I didn't want you to think I doubted you. I wanted to handle it myself. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. You don't have to do this alone. Not anymore. They decided to go to the police, but the letters kept coming, now addressed to the twins. That was the breaking point. Cashin moved the family to a hotel for a few days, the twins thinking it was a fun vacation, while he and Mira tried to figure out who was behind the threats. One night, as they sat on the hotel balcony, Myra's head resting on Cashin's shoulder, she whispered, "What if it's someone from your past? Someone who wants to hurt you by hurting us?" He stroked her hair, his voice steady. "Then I'll protect you, no matter what it takes." But the fear lingered, a shadow over their happiness. A week later, the investigator called with news. The letters were traced to someone Cashin had fired years ago, a former executive who'd lost everything and blamed Cashin for his downfall. The man was arrested, and the threats stopped, but the scars remained. Mira struggled with anxiety, jumping at every unexpected sound. Cashin did everything he could to reassure her, but he knew trust was fragile. He started seeing a therapist, wanting to be the best partner and father he could be. Mira joined him for some sessions, and together they learned to talk about their fears, their hopes, their dreams. Slowly, the tension eased. The twins started kindergarten, and Cashin was there for every drop-off and pick-up, cheering them on at school plays and soccer games. Myra's art flourished, her paintings selling for more than she'd ever dreamed. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the twins chase fireflies, Cashin took Myra's hand. "I want to build a home with you. A real one. Not just a place to live, but a place to grow old together." She smiled, her heart full. "Let's do it. Let's build our forever." They found a house on the edge of the city, with a big backyard and a sunlit studio for Mira. The twins picked out their own rooms, and Cashin planted a tree in the yard, promising to watch it grow as their family did. On the first night in their new home, Mira and Cashin stood in the empty living room, the twins asleep upstairs. He pulled her close, his voice rough with emotion. "Thank you for giving me a second chance, for believing in me." She kissed him, slow and deep, her love a promise. "Thank you for becoming the man I always knew you could be." They made love on the floor, the moonlight painting silver patterns on their skin, their bodies moving together in a dance of forgiveness and hope. As they drifted to sleep, Mira whispered, "I love you, Cashin. Always." He smiled, holding her close. "Always." The new house became a living, breathing thing, full of sunlight, laughter, and the chaos of family life. Cashin learned to fix leaky faucets and patch scraped knees. Mira filled the walls with her paintings, each one a testament to the life they'd built from broken pieces. One Saturday morning, the twins burst into the bedroom before dawn, their faces alight with excitement. "Wake up. It's pancake day," Finn shouted, bouncing on the bed. Alara giggled, her hair a wild halo around her face. Cashin groaned, pulling a pillow over his head, but Mira just laughed and rolled out of bed, scooping Alara into her arms. "Come on, sleepyheads. Let's make a mess in the kitchen." Downstairs, flour dusted every surface, and the twins argued over chocolate chips versus blueberries. Cashin surrendered to their demands, flipping pancakes while Mira danced around the kitchen, her laughter bright and free. For a moment, he just watched her, memorizing the way sunlight caught in her hair, the way she smiled at their children. After breakfast, they piled into the car for a day at the lake. The twins shrieked with delight as Cashin chased them into the water, Mira snapping photos from the shore. Later, as the sun dipped low, they built a bonfire and roasted marshmallows, sticky fingers and happy hearts. That night, after the twins were asleep, Cashin found Mira on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, her eyes on the stars. He sat beside her, pulling her close. "You look a million miles away," he murmured. She leaned into him, her voice soft. "I was just thinking about how far we've come. Sometimes I still can't believe this is real." He kissed her temple, his voice rough with emotion. "It's real, and it's ours." She turned to him, her eyes shining. "Do you ever worry it could all fall apart again?" He hesitated, then shook his head. "Not if we keep choosing each other. Every day." She smiled, her fears easing. "Then that's what we'll do." As summer faded into autumn, life settled into a gentle rhythm. School runs, art shows, board meetings, bedtime stories. Cashin found himself craving the quiet moments, reading with Alara in the hammock, helping Finn build a treehouse, holding Mira close as the world spun on. But happiness, he knew, was never without its shadows. One evening, as Cashin tucked the twins into bed, Finn looked up at him, his eyes serious. "Papa, why don't you ever talk about your family?" Cashin froze, the question catching him off guard. He sat on the edge of the bed, searching for words. "I didn't have a family like this growing up," he said finally. "Not one that felt like home." Alara reached for his hand, her voice small. "But you have us now." He smiled, his heart aching with love. "Yes, I do, and I'm never letting go." Downstairs, Mira waited for him, sensing the heaviness in his step. She pulled him into her arms, holding him until the tension melted away. "You're not alone anymore," she whispered. "We're your family. Always." He buried his face in her hair, letting her words sink in. For the first time, he believed them. The first real test of their new life came quietly, almost unnoticed. Mira started feeling tired, her energy fading, her appetite gone. At first, she brushed it off. Too many late nights painting, too many early mornings with the twins. But when she fainted in the kitchen one afternoon, Cashin's fear was immediate and raw. He carried her to the car, the twins silent in the back seat, and drove straight to the hospital. Hours blurred together, tests, questions, worried glances. Cashin never left her side, holding her hand, whispering reassurances he barely believed himself. Finally, the doctor returned, a gentle smile on her face. "You're not sick, Mira. You're pregnant." The words hung in the air, disbelief and joy mingling in Mira's eyes. Cashin stared at the doctor, then at Mira, his heart pounding. "Are you sure?" She nodded, her smile widening. "Congratulations." Mira laughed, tears streaming down her cheeks. Cashin pulled her into his arms, his own eyes wet. "We're having another baby," he whispered, awe in his voice. The twins were overjoyed, peppering Mira with questions. "Will it be a boy or a girl? Can we help pick the name? Can the baby sleep in our room?" Cashin watched them, his heart full. He caught Mira's gaze, and she mouthed, "We did this. Together." But with the joy came old fears. Mira worried about her health, about the future, about whether Cashin would stay if things got hard. Cashin saw the shadows in her eyes and did everything he could to reassure her. Doctor's appointments, healthy meals, quiet nights holding her close. One night, as they lay in bed, Mira whispered, "Promise me you won't run, no matter what." He turned to her, his voice steady. "I promise. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." She nodded, her fears easing. "I believe you." He kissed her, slow and deep, sealing his promise with every touch. The months passed in a blur of anticipation and preparation. The twins helped paint the nursery, their laughter echoing through the house. Cashin read every parenting book he could find, determined to do things right this time. Mira's pregnancy was harder than before, more exhaustion, more worry, but Cashin was her rock. He held her hair back when she was sick, rubbed her feet at night, whispered encouragement when she felt overwhelmed. One evening, as a storm raged outside, Mira woke Cashin with a sharp cry. He was instantly alert, Helping her to the car, the twins bundled up and half asleep in the back seat. At the hospital, time seemed to stand still, pain, fear, hope, and finally, the sound of a newborn's cry. A baby girl, tiny and perfect, with Myra's eyes and Cashin's stubborn chin. Cashin held her for the first time, his hands trembling. "She's beautiful," he whispered, tears streaming down his face. Mira smiled, exhausted but radiant. "We did it." The twins crowded around, peering at their new sister. Finn grinned, declaring, "She looks like you, Papa." Alara giggled, reaching out to touch the baby's tiny hand. Cashin looked at his family, Mira, the twins, their new daughter, and felt a peace he'd never known. He kissed Myra's forehead, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for giving me this life, for believing in me." She smiled, her eyes shining. "Thank you for fighting for us." The days that followed were a whirlwind of sleepless nights and joyful chaos. The twins doted on their baby sister, arguing over who got to hold her, who could sing her to sleep. Cashin took time off work, refusing to miss a single moment. One afternoon, as Mira napped upstairs, Cashin sat in the nursery, rocking his daughter. He whispered stories to her, of mistakes and second chances, of love found and lost and found again. He promised her, as he had promised Mira, that he would always be there. Downstairs, Mira woke to the sound of laughter. She found Cashin and the twins in the kitchen, flour everywhere, the baby gurgling in her bouncer. Cashin looked up, his eyes full of love. "We're making cookies. Want to help?" She laughed, joining them, her heart overflowing. As they baked, Cashin caught her hand, squeezing it gently. "This is our forever," he whispered. Mira smiled, tears in her eyes. "Yes, our forever." That night, as the family curled up together, Cashin held Mira close, their children nestled around them. He looked at the life they'd built, the love, the laughter, the second chances, and knew he would never take it for granted. He kissed Mira softly, his voice a promise in the dark. "No more running. No more fear. Just us. Always." She smiled, her heart finally at peace. Always. The new house settled around them like a gentle embrace, but Mira couldn't shake the feeling that something was shifting beneath the surface. She tried to ignore the exhaustion that clung to her bones, the way her hands sometimes trembled when she reached for her paintbrush. She blamed it on the move, on the endless to-do lists, on the twins' boundless energy. But Cashin noticed. He watched her more closely now, his eyes lingering on the dark circles beneath her eyes, the way she pressed a hand to her forehead when she thought no one was looking. One evening, as the twins played in the backyard, he found her sitting on the edge of their bed, staring at nothing. He sat beside her, his voice gentle. "You're not yourself lately. Talk to me, Mira." She tried to smile, but it faltered. "I'm just tired. It's nothing." He took her hand, his thumb tracing slow circles over her knuckles. "You don't have to be strong all the time. Not with me." She looked at him then, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "I'm scared, Cashin. What if I'm not enough? What if I can't keep up with all of this, being a mother, an artist, your wife?" He pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. "You're more than enough. You always have been. And you're not alone. We're in this together." She let herself lean into him, her fears softening in the warmth of his embrace. "Promise me you won't let me disappear into the background. Promise me you'll see me, even when I'm not shining." He kissed her hair, his voice fierce. "I see you, Mira. I always will." The next morning, Cashin insisted she see a doctor. Mira protested, but he wouldn't budge. "If you won't do it for yourself, do it for us. For the twins." At the clinic, Mira sat in a sterile room, her heart pounding. Cashin squeezed her hand, his presence steady and grounding. The doctor ran tests, asked questions, and finally smiled gently. "You're not sick, Mira. You're pregnant." The words hung in the air, impossible and miraculous. Mira stared at the doctor, then at Cashin, her breath catching. "Pregnant?" Cashin's eyes widened, a slow smile breaking across his face. "We're having another baby?" Mira laughed, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I guess we are." The drive home was a blur of laughter and disbelief. The twins were ecstatic, peppering Mira with questions. "Will it be a boy or a girl? Can we help pick the name? Can the baby share our room?" Cashin watched them, his heart full. Later, as he tucked the twins into bed, Finn whispered, "Are you happy, Papa?" Cashin knelt beside him, brushing hair from his son's forehead. "I'm happier than I ever thought I could be." That night, Mira lay in Cashin's arms, her fears replaced by a quiet hope. "Are you scared?" she whispered. He shook his head, pressing a kiss to her shoulder. "Not anymore. We've already survived the worst. Everything else is just living." She smiled, her hand resting over her belly. "Then let's live. All of us." The months that followed were a whirlwind of preparation and anticipation. The twins painted pictures for the baby's room, their laughter echoing through the house. Cashin read every book he could find, determined to be the father he'd never had. Myra's pregnancy was harder this time, more fatigue, more worry, but Cashin was her anchor. He cooked her favorite meals, rubbed her back when she couldn't sleep, and held her close on the nights when old fears crept in. One evening, as a summer storm rattled the windows, Mira woke Cashin with a sharp cry. He was instantly awake, helping her to the car, the twins bundled up and half asleep in the back seat. At the hospital, time seemed to stretch and contract. Pain, hope, fear, and finally, the sound of a newborn's cry. A baby girl, tiny and perfect, with Myra's eyes and Cashin's stubborn chin. Cashin held her for the first time, his hands trembling. "She's beautiful," he whispered, awe and gratitude in his voice. Mira smiled, exhausted but radiant. "We did it." The twins crowded around, peering at their new sister. Finn grinned, declaring, "She looks like you, Papa." Alara giggled, reaching out to touch the baby's tiny hand. Cashin looked at his family, Mira, the twins, their new daughter, and felt a peace he'd never known. He kissed Myra's forehead, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for giving me this life, for believing in me." She smiled, her eyes shining. "Thank you for fighting for us." That night, as the hospital quieted and the city slept, Cashin sat by Myra's bedside, their newborn daughter cradled in his arms. He whispered promises to her, of love, of protection, of a family that would never let her go. Mira watched him, her heart overflowing. For the first time, she let herself believe in forever. The seasons turned, and the house on the edge of the city grew into a true home. The walls filled with laughter, the garden wild with the twins' adventures, and the nursery alive with the soft coos of their new daughter. Cashin found himself waking each morning with a sense of wonder, as if he'd been given a life he never quite believed he deserved. He learned to cherish the small things, the way Myra's hair glowed in the morning sun, the sticky kisses from Alara and Finn, the weight of his newborn daughter sleeping on his chest. He found joy in the chaos, in the mess, in the noise that once would have driven him to distraction. Now, it was the music of his redemption. Mira flourished, her art blooming with new color and depth. She painted the children in the garden, Cashin reading stories in the twilight. The family gathered around the kitchen table. Her work drew attention, and soon her paintings hung in galleries across the city. But her favorite place was always home, where Cashin's arms wrapped around her at the end of each day, grounding her in a love she'd once thought lost. One crisp autumn afternoon, as golden leaves drifted past the windows, Cashin found Mira in her studio, a smear of paint on her cheek and a look of quiet contentment in her eyes. He watched her for a moment, then crossed the room and pulled her into his arms. She laughed, brushing her hands over his shoulders. "You're going to get paint on your suit." He smiled, not caring. "Let them talk. I'd rather be covered in your colors than anyone else's expectations." She leaned into him, her voice soft. "Do you ever think about the past? About how close we came to losing all of this?" He nodded, his gaze steady. "Every day, and every day, I choose to be better. For you, for them, for myself." She kissed him, slow and sure, her love a balm to every old wound. "You already are." That evening, as the sun set and the children tumbled into the living room, Cashin gathered them close. He told them stories of mistakes and forgiveness, of courage and second chances. Finn listened wide-eyed, Alara curled against his side, the baby gurgling in Myra's lap. Mira watched Cashin, her heart full. She saw the man he'd become, the father, the husband, the partner she'd always hoped for. She saw the way he looked at their children, the way he held her hand, the way he never let a day pass without telling her he loved her. Later, After the children were asleep, Cashin and Mira stood on the porch, the world quiet around them. He wrapped his arms around her, holding her close as the stars blinked overhead. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice rough with emotion, "for giving me a second chance, for believing in me, even when I didn't believe in myself." She smiled, her eyes shining with tears and joy. "Thank you for coming back, for fighting for us, for choosing us every day." He pressed his forehead to hers, their breath mingling in the cool night air. "I'll never stop." And as the years unfolded, their love only deepened. There were hard days and heartbreaks, laughter and tears, but through it all, they held fast to each other. Cashin never forgot the pain of almost losing everything, and Mira never stopped believing in the power of forgiveness. Their story became one of hope, a reminder that even the deepest wounds can heal, that love can grow in the unlikeliest places, and that sometimes the greatest happiness comes from the courage to begin again. And in the quiet moments, when the world was still and the house was full of sleeping children, Cashin would hold Mira close and whisper, "Always." And she would answer, her voice steady and sure, "Always."